from today, cash-strapped consumers are facing another massive electricity tariff hike of almost 13%. Energy regulator NERSA last year approved the power utilities application for an increase. Some trade unions and commentators say the hike will only add to the dissatisfaction of South Africans ahead of the elections. Let's stay with this conversation and speak to Mohamed Madhi, energy expert and Sinan Energy CEO. Mohamed, always a pleasure. Thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Municipalities are likely to feel the pinch, and some are already in the red. And I wonder, how is this likely to impact them at a practical level?
Good afternoon, Bongiwe, and good afternoon to viewers. Look, the electricity price increase certainly is a double-digit increase. It's higher than inflation. As far as municipalities are concerned, they typically would pass the increase on to their end users, and they would continue receiving the same margin as they have in the past. So the impact it would have primarily relates to the affordability. There are a number of their clients and users of electricity who find it more difficult to afford electricity, and there'll probably be a higher degree of bad debts, as can be expected, because it's a fairly steep increase, given where inflation currently is. But direct impact of the municipality is limited because, as I said, they pass on almost all, if not all, of the increase to their end users.
And the users themselves, of course, as you say, are under pressure. And I wonder then, in your view, for them, is this increase justified? As some who are saying that for Eskom it's been justified, but now others are saying, but it comes at a difficult time already for some.
You know, that's a very good question, and unfortunately, it's partly political and partly philosophical and partly technical. So let's talk about the fact. Just look at it from Eskom's point of view first. Eskom has a shrinking revenue base because a number of clients, more and more clients, are going solar and are doing other forms of alternative energy and are using battery energy storage solutions and so on. So their base is shrinking on the one hand. On the other hand, Eskom's cost base is increasing. They have a higher and higher cost base for maintaining their power plants. Of course, their salaries increase every year and various other operating expenses. So Eskom is feeling the squeeze both sides, an increase in cost base and a reducing revenue base. So certainly they need an increase that's higher than inflation. Whether that is justifiable from an overall energy supply industry point of view, I would say definitely not. There are alternatives. Government should, and other stakeholders should have intervened a long time ago and prevented these kinds of increases from happening. But of course, it's too late now to talk about what should have been done. So given the current circumstances, this increase is sort of a compromise in terms of affordability on the one hand and what Eskom requires on the other hand. But going forward, we cannot have these increases, we cannot have double-digit increases going on and persisting year after year. It's simply going to kill the consumer in terms of affordability. So this is the real problem. Government needs to put in place a target and ensure that Eskom keeps to this target date, by which increases are then flatlined to inflation or related to inflation.
And I wonder then, for those who can afford it, do you think we're likely to see more and more people opting for some of, either they go off the grid or some of the power supply options?
Absolutely. So we are seeing a major trend. In 2 years ago, we had about 800 megawatts added to the grid from the private sector. In the past 12 months, we had 2,000 megawatts added to the grid. That's about 5% of Eskom's, what their capacity should be, available capacity should be. In this coming year, we predict around 3,000 megawatts of private sector power. And 2 years from now, it would rise to as much as between 7,000 to 10,000 megawatts in total from the private sector. So this means it will have a very severe impact on Eskom. And Eskom's, as I said, the revenue base will shrink. And as it shrinks, so it's really a death spiral for them. Because as this revenue base shrinks, more and more consumers will move to alternative power because it's cheaper. simple economics, it's cheaper, it's more reliable, unfortunately in most cases, or fortunately in most cases. So you will see this trend accelerating of especially businesses, larger users, but even individual homeowners moving to alternative power.
And I wonder about, people who do not have then the means to be able to look at some of the alternatives. How then do they begin to change their consumption habits, for example, in order to save possibly like $1 or $2?
Yeah, that's also a very good question. So generally, if one is paying for electricity, and if you're not defaulting on your electricity bill, there are any number of providers out there today who are able to provide an alternative solution on a funded basis. So, a fully funded alternative solution, and you actually pay less than what you normally pay for your electricity. So the affordability argument for alternative power, unfortunately, is not really true, because, as I said, a number of providers give you alternatives where there's no cash up front, and you end up paying less than what you would have been paying to Eskom or the municipality for that matter.
All right. Thank you so much, Mohamed, for those tips. And really, as you say, it's already tough for some. And, if things, don't ease up somewhat, a lot more people, as you say, may end up defaulting. But let's see then how the municipalities effect their own increases when they then do so. And that's expected to be around July. But thank you so much for your time. That is Mohamed Madhi, energy expert and Sinan Energy CEO.